My name is Peggy Barry Bartz, and this is my show, You're Kind of a Big Deal. What if we all knew that deep inside we were all a ball of light sent in this world to share our light with each other and shine brightly and live with each other in harmony? Each of us has within us the elements of the stuff of the stars, and we get to sparkle and shine and play with other creatures of the light. Every time we meet, I'm going to introduce you to another person who has a story to tell and a story to share, because each of us really is a big deal. I am the self-proclaimed unofficial fairy godmother of Lake Orion, and I usually make people laugh, but I believe that everyone has a story to tell. Each life is a story. There are characters, there are plots, there are drama, and there are lessons to be learned. Fairy tales, as we know them, have all of the same elements as stories in real life. Well, maybe minus the magic wands. There was a storyteller once upon a time, a couple of thousand years ago, who used stories to convey lessons and to share his points. His stories are quite famous and are just as real as the ones we have called fairy tales. Those stories still have meaning. He also taught each of us that we are the light of the world and that our stories matter. We can't hide under a basket. And so each week I will interview a person who has a story to tell, whose light is going to shine. I'm thrilled to have my first guest as Mr. Bill Anderson from Lake Orion. My guest today is Mr. Bill Anderson, an almost lifelong resident of Lake Orion, who has many stories to tell us about life in Lake Orion and his family's history. The first most important thing, you grew up with 5 women. Do you want to tell me about that?
5 older sisters who were in training to become mentors.
Of course they were.
And so that was a lesson in feminology.
And did you learn well?
Apparently.
Oh, good.
I'm still here.
And your current wife would say so also?
My current wife would testify to that. That's right.
Okay, good.
Now,
All right.
Again, I was born in 1935, and Lake Orion in 1935, if we talk about decades from 1935 to 1945, Lake Orion in those years was primarily a mixture of people that worked at the Pontiac Motor Division, that worked locally, and there was 3,200 people here.
During the normal?
During the winter time.
Okay.
From
What about the
Labor
summer?
Day, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, that probably swelled to 3,000 to 5,000.
That's quite a big difference for a small town.
Yeah, and it was a wonderful, wonderful little town. Still is a wonderful little town. We lived on Lake Orion.
So what do you remember most from the time you were, say, 5 to 10?
Well, there are several items. I remember being taken to school by one of my older sisters, my sister Margot. I didn't learn until years later that she was paid by my mother to make sure that I got to school.
What a task.
Yeah, but that's appropriate because Margot saved my life by pulling me out of the lake when I'd fallen in a couple of times.
On your way to school, you fell in the lake?
No, when I was small. It was Margot's turn to watch me, evidently, and I fell in the lake and she pulled me out.
Oh, well, you owe quite a debt to Miss Margot.
Yeah.
So I understand you also used to get to do the most unusual task on Lake Orion, which is not done now, delivering mail.
Well, I didn't deliver the mail. I went with the postmaster.
And how did you get to do that?
Well, it's a small community. And everybody knew everybody, and I wanted to go with the postmaster when he delivered the mail. In the summertime, the summer residents would put a mailbox on the end of their dock, and they had a marine address. and the postmaster would put the mail in a bag, and we'd go around the lake,
What
deliver
fun.
deliver the mail.
So you were telling me about Victory Gardens, which I've only heard of. So explain how that Victory Garden
During
concept
World
worked.
War II, there was food rationing as well as gas rationing, and so most of the food that was produced by the farmers was used in the war effort, and so people were encouraged to have a garden in their backyard
Okay.
called a victory garden,
Okay.
and raise their own fruits or their own vegetables.
So that the soldiers and the people helping in the war effort could use the food that was for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a family, not obligation, but my father owned a farm right outside what is continues to be Addison Oaks,
Okay.
and right outside that, the entrance to there, he had a farm, and on weekends we would go out there and tend to our victory garden.
And how big was the garden?
Oh, probably a quarter of an acre.
That's a lot of gardening.
That's a
though.
lot of gardening.
That is. And all your sisters and the whole family came out?
Whole family, it was a family project.
Was this a 1-year project or 2 years, or did it go on several years?
I think it went on for a couple years.
Wow, that's really cool. That's a great idea. Community gardens right now are very popular.
Mhm.
So you were actually doing sort of a community,
Yeah.
except it was actually an
Yeah.
effort for the war that there was happening all over the country.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Very cool. Oh, you were going to tell me, I remember, about the train that went from the big town of
Lake Orion,
all the way to...
all the way, my father made arrangements for me and him to get on board the steam locomotive engine and go all the way to Oxford.
Wow.
I was very impressed.
I bet you
Very,
were.
very impressed. I guess one of the things that I remember most was being taught by a teacher in the 3rd grade by the name of Blanche Sims, and there's a school named after her now.
Yes, there is a school named after her. It's not very far from here in downtown
Yeah.
Lake Orion.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
She was your teacher?
She taught all 6 of us kids,
Wow.
and I'm told by one of my older sisters that her class was the 3rd grade class. Another thing growing up in those days, the Lake Orion Marching Band performed on what was then called Decoration Day, which is now called Memorial Day.
Yes?
And they had 2 memorial services. They had one right down the street here on Axford at the cemetery, and then they also had a memorial ceremony in Greens Park to honor the maritime soldiers. And I was privileged, as many people, all the kids in our family had to play a musical instrument.
Yes, you know what? I want to ask you about that. You have told me that your parents made you take an instrument and take piano lessons. And
Everybody had to play the piano and learn how to play a wind instrument.
And so now you're a wind instrument yourself? I'm kidding. So what instrument did you play?
I played the trumpet, and I played the trumpet all the way through high school, and I had a dance band, and I played the trumpet.
Tell me about the dance band. Did you do dances for the high school?
No, it was just a little dance band that we did for our local school.
So you were one of the original members of the Lake Orion High School Marching Band. And if I
Well, I
recall,
don't say original, but I mean,
but you were a member.
I was a member.
The Lake
And
Orion.
somehow we always got placed in the parade on Decoration Day behind the horses.
Oh, that would be a problem.
Oh, it is a problem. It is a problem for the band members who are concentrating on their music and not what they're stepping into.
I know. I don't think there's horses in the Memorial Day parade. If I
If they
recall,
are,
there
there's-
wasn't any.
If they are, they have people behind them picking up the debris.
Oh my goodness. All right, what do you remember about when you graduated from high school and became a a member of a fraternity.
Well, before I get to that story, one of the things about Lake Orion was what is now the auto zone at the corner of Flint Street and M24. That used to be the railroad station depot, and then behind that was a band shell. And the concert band, the Lake Orion High School concert band, used to give concerts there in the summertime. It's very quaint.
Very wonderful.
Very quaint.
Are there pictures of that anywhere?
Not that I have.
Okay. Wonderful.
Also, Lake Orion was, M24 was a 2-lane highway, and in the wintertime, there used to be 55-gallon drums along M24. So if you were having trouble getting up Bald Mountain, you could use the sand that was in those barrels to give you enough traction to get over the.
Now this was in the wintertime?
In the wintertime, yeah.
So placed along M24 were barrels of sand.
Yeah.
So that if you got stuck, you could just get out, take a shovel, throw
Yeah.
some sand, and keep going.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that. That's amazing. That it was
Different
that really
time.
not that long ago when you think about it.
No, it's not.
Tell us about the house on Anderson Street, right at the corner of
Well,
Anderson and Flint Street.
Anderson Avenue and Flint Street. My grandfather had that house built in 1898, and they moved in 1899, and my father was born there in 1900. Eventually, my father had it converted to 3 apartments. It's still there, and we used to store parts in the basement of the house, what are called sheet metal parts. That's fenders and what have you, big parts. My father was an automobile dealer, and so he needed the room for parts, and that's where we used to store them down there.
I understand. Tell me a little bit about your father being an automobile dealer and the musical events that used to now and then happen at the automobile dealership. How did he start becoming an automobile dealer?
Well, he was a general contractor until the Depression wiped him out in 1929. And in the mid-30s, he became an automobile dealer and got the Chevrolet, Pontiac, and then the Buick franchise. And he was located in a 40-foot wide structure and on Flint Street in Lake Orion.
Flint and?
27 East Flint Street.
Okay.
And after the war, Chevrolet said that there was going to be an unprecedented demand for automobiles and that he needed to have a larger facility. And so he was encouraged to build a new building, which he did on M24, which was there for a long time as an automobile dealership, right across the street from what is now the tire warehouse.
Okay, is the building still standing?
The building is still standing. It's now a shopping center or a strip mall, I guess you call it.
Okay, where the Hungry Howie's and all of those
There's a bagel
buildings
shop and I don't know, it was a combination of
But that
things.
was the original building.
That was the original building that
Wow,
was
that's
there.
fascinating.
Anyhow, he had a large showroom that was used as a community affairs hall, in which there was a Hammond organ and a piano. And in the summertime, one of my sisters would play the Hammond organ, and they would pipe the music to the loudspeakers outside in the summertime.
So in the dealership, in the summertime, the people would hear the music in the lot where they were looking at the cars piped through. You were the original music.
Yeah.
Except this
so
was
to speak.
live music.
Live music, yeah.
And why didn't you ever get to play in the summer?
I wasn't that good.
Aw.
I talked my parents into letting me play football rather than take.
Oh.
Uh,
Do your sisters, did you have any recordings of this?
no,
Or pictures?
no,
No pictures or recordings. Wow. But at least they know that they used to do that.
they did indeed.
And I do believe that you grew up to be an automobile dealer.
That's true. In Waterford,
Okay. But you
Uh,
learned the business from your father.
from the ground up.
I bet you did learn from the ground up. Did you have live music in your showroom?
No.
Okay.
Let's go back to living and being brought up in Lake Orion.
Okay.
So let's go from the years 1945 to 65. There's a street in Lake Orion called Lake Street, and it used to be the major and the only place on this part of the lake where you could launch a boat. And Lake Street, still there, runs right into the lake, and it's not used as a boat launching ramp anymore, but
Actually, yes, it is. It's right down the street from us, and you can still
Okay.
launch a boat there.
well, anyhow, in the wintertime, when the ice was thick enough, we would, when I was old enough to have a car, we would drive down Lake Street as fast as we could, and as soon as we hit the ice, we'd turn the wheel and step on the brake, and the car that could do the most loops won for that particular session.
Do not try this at home.
Also, during that period of time, this was in the mid-40s, Lake Orion had what they called a youth center.
Okay.
It was at the corner of BB and Shadbolt Street, and they used to have they had ping pong tables in the basement, and the high school kids could dance on the first floor and what have you. And my mother and my father insisted that they also offered courtesy and dance lessons there.
Oh, so you learned how to dance in a
That's,
little building that's right down the road.
Yeah, and it's a church now.
Hmm.
So now it's still there. One of the events that is very outstanding in my memory was on a $5 bet. I climbed up the water tower, which was located near the corner of Atwater and Perry Street. And the water tower had a catwalk around it. And I stayed up on the catwalk until dawn on a $5 bet.
That's stuff of movies, sir.
It's an act of stupidity, is what it is.
And about how
I'm
old
a-
were you?
I was a teenager.
Oh, well, that's a normal teenager
A
thing.
dumb teenager.
Perhaps that's why they took the water tower down. There was too many $5 bets going on at the water tower. I do believe you used to toboggan somewhere on Lake Orion.
There was a toboggan slide on Park Island, and with the correct weather conditions, that being there was no snow on the ice, but the ice was polished by the wind and what have you. If you, on those conditions, you could come down that toboggan slide and go almost over to Greens Park.
Wow. You were getting some speed going there.
Oh yeah.
But didn't you tell me you used to take a couple logs and put a piece of fabric between them?
We'd take curtain rods, and we would tack muslin cloth between the two rods, and then we'd skate up to the bridge that goes across to Bellevue Island, and then we'd unroll the muslin cloth on these two curtain rods and make a sail out of it. And if you went with the wind, you could only go as fast as the wind.
Okay.
But if you went crosswise to the wind, there's some formula that if the wind was 20 miles an hour, you'd go a lot faster than that if you went crosswise to the
And
wind.
how many of you would go on this?
Well, it was a one-man deal.
Oh, just one at a time.
One, yeah.
Okay. And did you ever fall into the
Oh
ice?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Lots of times. Going too fast. Going
I'm
too
sure you
fast.
were. I'm sure you were going
And
too
we
fast.
used to hunt along the railroad tracks from what is now the Orion Lumber Company. We would hunt all the way down to Kern Road, which is where there was an artesian well down there that you could get water on.
Okay.
So where there's water, there's livestock and what have you, birds and what have you.
And there were no houses where Lake Orion Lumber is now, currently
Oh,
located?
no. The houses thinned out when you got south of that point.
Okay.
So
Wow.
another thing we used to, on the ice in the wintertime, we'd play a game called shinny, which is a form of hockey. And hockey sticks weren't curled in those days, curved. They were straight. So the puck didn't go as fast, but it hurt. As fast as it was, it still hurt. And so we'd take the Good Housekeeping magazine and wrap it around our shins so that if you got hit by the puck, it didn't hurt as much.
So the hockey stick was not shaped like an L. It was just a regular stick.
No. It was the blade of it was not curved. It was straight.
Okay.
It's the curve of the blade makes the puck spin just like the rifling does in a barrel.
Okay.
Goes much more faster and more accurate.
I see.
So anyhow, in the summertime, with all these additional people here, Saturday night was a wonderful night because we could cruise the shoreline of the lake and find out where the loudest parties were and then go see if anybody would like to go for a ride in a boat.
Oh, was that the old-fashioned way of cruising for chicks?
I guess someone could say that.
And you did it on a boat. Oh, that's kind of fun.
Me and my friends and I.
Your friends and you. This would probably be in your college days.
And then one of the events would be to not run with our navigation lights on, but we'd cruise along the shoreline, just off the shoreline, on a Saturday night after dark. And this boat had a big spotlight on it. And we would, when we saw some interesting activity on the shoreline, why we'd all clap and blow whistles.
I see. And were you?
We were not popular, but
oh, you were not invited to come on shore.
no.
So, Bill, tell me about your beautiful and very patient wife.
My wife is beautiful and patient. She would have to be married to me for 55 years.
55 years.
55
I'm
years.
going to clap for that. That's amazing.
That's to each other.
To each other, yes.
Yes,
As you
that's
often say, your current wife.
That's right. That's 110 years cumulative.
Oh, yeah. I think hers is more like 75, but we won't talk about that.
We met at the University of Detroit.
Okay.
We graduated in June and got married in July.
Wow.
And I went into the Air Force for our side
Okay.
in September of the same year, 1958.
Oh. So she was sort of a bride for a short time, and then you had to leave.
Well, we went together. I was an officer, and so we went together, and we had 4 good years in the United States Air Force.
So tell me where you were stationed in the Air Force.
1 year in Del Rio, Texas, and 3 years in Amarillo, Texas.
Okay.
Some people think Texas is an overseas assignment, but it really isn't. It's part of the United States.
Well, Texas kind of wants to be their own state, so that's okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah. So did you have any children when you were in Texas?
We had 3 children. We had a boy and 2 girls.
Okay.
And then we had another boy when I got out of service.
Okay.
And of the 4 children, there are 2 master's degrees and 4 undergraduate degrees.
I do believe it's your oldest son, Patrick, who is a correspondent.
Forensic economist.
Yes, and he's often quoted.
He is frequently quoted in the Detroit papers and in other publications.
Wonderful. And
he's written a couple of books.
And all of your children also played musical instruments, if I recall.
They all had to take piano lessons, but for not very long.
Oh, okay.
They developed other interests.
Very good. And what
And
about your second oldest?
Catherine is retired as a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Okay.
Christine lives in Clarkston, and she's a stay-at-home mom. And Bill lives in Carmel, Texas. Carmel is the Hoosier pronunciation of Carmel.
Okay.
He's a manager for the Federal Home Loan Bank down there.
Okay.
And they have produced 11 grandchildren, 8 boys and 3 girls.
Lots of boys in the Anderson clan.
They're all doing real good.
And you have one grandson who plays the piano incredibly, if I remember.
Actually, two grandsons that play the piano very well.
Do you suppose that came through all those genes that your dad made you play the piano and you play the piano? And do you think musical talent goes through the genes?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I think
yes.
so. I think so. That's my own personal opinion.
That's because you're a musician.
Of course I am. Of course I think so. But I don't think it comes out of anywhere. I think it's passed through, and that somehow with the part we don't understand it gets passed through there. So when you have family gatherings, it's quite a large event.
It is an event, and we're very fortunate when we are together, which is a couple times a year. We enjoy each other's company very much.
That's a wonderful thing.
It is a wonderful thing, and I'm very proud of that.
Now,
Both Marilyn and I are very proud of that.
Yes, well, she is a wonderful woman. And I do want to say one thing. The events of 9/11 actually touched you very personally because Patrick was in New York.
Patrick was there. He was staying in the hotel that was between the 2 towers, and he had just come down from the roof doing exercise and was in the process of getting dressed and was instructed to get out of the hotel immediately. And he grabbed his wallet and a few other papers and left, and was able to get out of the building and instructed to run north. And as he was running north, he heard another plane and looked up and saw the second plane hit the other tower and dove underneath the New York garbage truck to save his life.
Wow.
To avoid what was falling from the sky.
Wow.
And he was able to get out of that area and eventually got home. He's established a fund for the Michigan residents that survived 9/11.
I did not know that. And where is that? Is this fund still being used, I'm assuming?
I assume it is. I don't have a lot of detail on it, but
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, you have left quite a legacy with your children and your family and all of your history of Lake Orion. Thank you so much for being in the
it's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're very welcome.